Kicking things off at number 10, we have Ryan Gosling. Did you know Ryan was a Disney star? Cause I didn't. That's right, back in the 90s, Gosling was part of the Mickey Mouse Club alongside Justin Timberlake, Christina Aguilera, and Britney Spears. A totally star-studded lineup, but they didn't know that yet. Yep, Gosling got his start on the Disney Channel, but didn't stick around for too long after joining the crew at the age of 12. In an interview from 2008, Ryan opened up about his 2 years on the Disney Channel. The La La Land actor revealed that producers from the Disney Channel thought that Ryan had a bit of an attitude problem and was a bad influence on the other kids. Now how could you say that about our darling Ryan? I mean, look at the man. He's oozing with sweet, gentle energy. Okay, let me stop before I start drooling. Gosling also went on to say that he was apparently considered to be such a menace to the other kids that the mothers of his co-stars went to the execs to complain about his behavior. The studio then ruled that Ryan wasn't Disney material because of his behavior and was soon let go. Obviously this little hiccup didn't stunt his career in the slightest, but it still would have been interesting to see him in more Disney projects. Up next at number 9 we have Teo Halm. As a spin-off slash reboot of the classic Disney show Boy Meets World, Girl Meets World started rolling, Disney execs were thinking of their cast list. Originally, Girl Meets World was supposed to focus on Corey and Topanga's daughter Riley, but they were also going to feature her older brother Elliot. Naturally, as anyone would be after being cast for a Disney show, Teo was stoked. This was going to be his big break. Unfortunately for him though, after filming the pilot episode with the whole cast, producers decided that they were going to cut Teo's character from the show. They released a statement saying that various creative changes are often made as a project transitions from pilot to series. Although Teo tells fans that there were no hard feelings towards the Disney team, it still got a sting a little. I mean, it seems that every kid's dream is to be on the Disney Channel, and for Teo to have that dream taken away when he was so close, man, that blows. His career hasn't taken much of a hit since being kicked off the Disney show, and I'm sure we will continue to watch his success unfold. But Disney, you lost out on a real one there. At number 8, Adrienne Bailon. Amigas, cheetahs, friends for life. You know who's not friends for life? Adrienne Bailon and Disney. The former cheetah girl who brought so much success to the Disney franchise was booted from the company after a photo leak back in 2008. The Cheetah Girls franchise was going so well, and Adrienne just had to mess things up with her titties. No, but really, back in 2008, either her or her boyfriend's computer got hacked and her nudes were leaked all over the internet. Obviously this wasn't good for her image, and it definitely was not good for Disney's either. Nudes are not brand friendly. Disney then quickly decided to cut ties with the actress, but Adrienne didn't seem to mind all that much. A lot of people believe that this so-called hack was a publicity stunt that Adrienne organized in order to be released from her contract and move on to other projects. This is understandable since she was 25 at the time. My guess is that she wanted to move on to more grown-up things, but I mean, if this didn't happen, then maybe we could have had a 4th Cheetah Girls movie, and that would have made my heart really happy. In at number 7, Lalaine. Best known for her role as Miranda from Lizzie McGuire, Lalaine was a fan favorite of many, including me. She was part of the Disney show's cast from the beginning, and she held a crucial role making up the trio of besties on the show. But mysteriously, Lalaine went MIA from the last few episodes of the series, as well as from the Lizzie McGuire movie that capped off the hit Disney show. The only explanation we as the audience were given for her mysterious disappearance was that Miranda went on vacation to Mexico during the events of the Lizzie McGuire movie. Her abrupt absence from the show was never explained further, and fans have been left wondering what actually happened to the actress. Obviously something big had to have gone down behind the scenes for her just to be wiped off the face of the Disney empire like that. Most fans believe that Lalaine had gotten herself into trouble. In a recent interview with the Lizzie McGuire cast, Lalaine mentioned that as a kid she went through a period of time that she called the dark days. The actress highlighted how she went nuts and stupid and just being angry and acting like she was so badass. I'm thinking that these so-called dark days were just the unfortunate combination of being a kid and growing up in the media. We've seen so many former child stars crash and burn because of their time in the spotlight, so this is probably the case. Disney just didn't want to have a kid burn out on camera like that. With the uncertainty of the Lizzie McGuire reboot up in the air, I certainly hope that we get to see the return of Miranda. Coming into number 6, we have Chloe Grace Moretz. Remember the 2008 Disney film Bolt? The one about the dog who wants to be a superhero? Well, did you know that the actress Chloe Grace Moretz was actually supposed to be the voice of Penny? Yep, that's right. Disney had cast Chloe to play the voice of Bolt's owner Penny, but was let go from the project and the role was given to Miley Cyrus instead. Chloe had actually recorded the whole movie when they decided, actually no, we want Miley instead. I mean, come on Disney. The girl spends all her time voicing the entire movie and you just decided to let her go? That's just mean. Producers still credited Chloe in the movie as the voice of young Penny, but still, that's gotta hurt. Just like our boy Tio, being kicked from the project at the last minute has gotta be one of the worst feelings ever. Luckily, being recast didn't hurt her career one bit. She's still one of the most sought after actresses in the industry and continues to find work outside of Disney.
At number 5 we have Crispin Glover and why he never returned for the Back to the Future sequel. Crispin had switched out his story numerous times, but one standing point was the studio not meeting his pay demands. He explained in an AV Club interview how he was offered $150,000 to reprise his George McFly role, but this was far less than what co-stars Tom Wilson and Leah Thompson were working for. In the opinion of Crispin, the producers were trying to force him out and punished him with physically uncomfortable scenes for questioning the script. Crispin claimed he would have experienced whatever discomfort needed if he was being properly compensated. Therefore, when the actor tried his hand at negotiation, the higher-ups apparently lowered the amount even further, to an alleged $25,000 instead. Crispin chalked this up to them not wanting to work with him, yet The Hollywood Reporter featured a slightly different spin, where they spoke about Crispin not liking the ideal script, so he demanded $100 million to take the role back. According to Crispin though, this alleged fabrication was merely a quote campaign smear tactic that he was supposedly asked to receive the same salary which Michael J. Fox was reigning in at the time. At number 4 we have crime scene investigation actors Georgia Fox and George Eads. The two stars of CSI faced intense behind the scenes drama while filming the show because they were both eventually removed after allegedly refusing to show up for filming. In accordance with People, both actors were dissatisfied with the results of their proposed raises of approximately $20,000 per episode. When the actors attempted to hold out for more, they got snipped out the equation. CBS's co-president Leslie Moonves made a point to state that a contract is a contract and that the company was maintaining the future of the network television business. Although there is a happier ending for this one, as both Georgia and George were invited to take their jobs back, but their rehire came with some new ground rules. The raises initially offered were revoked, resulting in the actors' negotiation tactics costing them an approximate $1.76 million. Big yikes. Even worse, George once claimed he wasn't even being petty and that he merely overslept when he didn't show up to work, rather than the hinted monetary gain story that was originally created. At number 3 we have iconic Disney star Hilary Duff, who was a staple for all early 2000s preteens with her crimped hair and then sweet style. The reason why Hilary and Paulo's Lizzie McGuire 2 manifestation didn't play out in real life was because of reported money disputes. Without Hilary, there would surely be no Lizzie, and apparently Hilary wanted more than what she was making then. According to Entertainment Weekly, the LM franchise closed off when Susan Duff, Hilary's then momager, refused Disney's deal for a sequel. Reportedly, Hilary was offered $500,000 in bonus for the second film if the first film surpassed $50 million. This was said to be a huge increase from the $100,000 bonus Disney originally offered the pair, along with part of a $4 million offer for its sequel, quote, against 4% of the studio's gross for the film. In full, Hilary's Lizzie payday exceeded this, but her mother expected the bonus to come immediately as opposed to waiting. In retaliation, Disney withdrew their deal completely while effectively axing the Lizzie McGuire franchise. In light of the incident, Susan said to Entertainment Weekly how Disney tried to quote bully them into what they wanted and was unsuccessful. So in turn, she and her daughter turned away from a sequel while the company ditched an entire series. At number 2 we have Walking Dead Maggie's actress Lauren Cohan. Lauren's character was surely a staple in the WD franchise for nearly a decade, but in 2018 AMC had to complicatedly decide to give in to the actress' then contract demands or remove her from her role. In her Entertainment Weekly interview, Lauren admitted that she was taken aback by her negotiation, which indicated that maybe it was time to leave. She recalls being baffled and feeling like it was just not a fit anymore, due to her and AMC not lining up in so many ways. According to The Hollywood Reporter, Lauren was already actively seeking new jobs around this time and was receiving multiple. As a result, she was no longer a part of the Walking Dead series, but the final decision to let her go was unusually a huge departure from that of the comic book series on which the show bases itself, though not entirely unlikely. However, Lauren could potentially see the return of her character Maggie in the future, despite her character being offed, as her ending was technically left up in the air. At number 1, we have Iron Man actor Terrence Howard, whose leave is somewhat of a sticky situation. It's difficult to say for certain if he was fired or pushed out, but no doubt his demise in the Iron Man franchise had the same end result. While Terrence starred in the first Iron Man film and was reportedly making more than leading actor Robert Downey Jr., he was excluded from the second, and apparently there are several reasons. The main one stemmed from an alleged battle over pay. Despite him being the big bill topper in the first film, Robert Downey soon copped the title of the world's highest paid actors for Forbes for 3 consecutive years, and moved into Terrence's money spot by the time of the second film. Terrence's top spot of $3.5 million in pay supposedly stemmed from the combination of risk associated with the Robert Downey bets at the time, as well as his Oscar nomination for Hustle and Flow. In Terrence's explanation, the reason behind Robert's earning so much in the subsequent Iron Man films is alleged because the studio was borrowing from Terrence to pay Robert, and he further claimed that he was set to accumulate $8 million for the second movie. Instead, Marvel Studios supposedly reworked their offered contract and reduced it to $1 million, with plans of using the remaining dough to pay Robert. Finally, once Terrence pushed back, Marvel rumoredly closed their deal entirely and hired Don Cheadle in place of Terrence.
At number 10, Kathy Griffin. A lot of people see Kathy Griffin as somewhat of an offensive person because her comedy style is very open and can be a little crude. Because of this, she's been in her fair share of controversies, but one of her biggest scandals happened back in 2017 when she made headlines after she posted a graphic photo of her holding a replica of Donald Trump's head. When this photo was originally released, all hell broke loose online and in the news, and her career was severely damaged. Because of the backlash she suffered as a result of this post, she was reportedly blacklisted from Hollywood. CNN ended up cutting ties with her, resulting in her being fired from her job co-hosting the network's annual New Year's Eve broadcast, and this whole scandal really just caused her to lose a lot of credibility in the industry. Originally, she apologized for her actions and said that she regretted posting it after seeing how so many people took offense to it, but she seemed to have gone back on that regret as she reposted the same infamous photo to her social media following the events of the US presidential election. Luckily, she can't get fired again for the same thing. At number 9, Holly Hunter. Imagine recording an entire film just for the studio to end up firing you and scrapping all of your work. Well, this is what happened to Holly Hunter back in 2005 when she was fired from the animated film Chicken Little. We all know the film as being centered around a little chicken who thinks the sky is falling, but we also know the main character as being a boy. Turns out that originally the character of Chicken Little was a girl and she was voiced by Holly Hunter. The actress had lent her voice to the film and recorded her lines of the entire film, working on the movie for about 8 months. But sadly, after all that hard work, the studio decided to take the character in a different direction and made Chicken Little into a male character. Holly was subsequently fired and replaced by Zach Braff, who re-recorded all the lines for the film and had his voice pitched up in post-production. I honestly think it would suck so much to have put in all that work for nothing, but at least Holly has an interesting story to tell, even though it's pretty unfortunate. Before I carry on with the video, I would like to ask you guys to consider leaving a like on this video if you're enjoying it so far, and also if you're interested in gameplay content, why not head on over to my gaming channel Viper Girl and check out what I've got going on over there. I upload every single day, so there's always something new and entertaining to enjoy over there. At number 8, Edward Norton. Anyone who's a big fan of the MCU knows the ins and outs of every movie and every bit of behind the scenes trivia, so those people already know about the drama surrounding the Hulk in the franchise. But for those who don't know, Mark Ruffalo wasn't always the big green guy, and the role was originally played by another actor who got fired. Actor Edward Norton was the one who first took on the role in the 2008 movie The Incredible Hulk, and though that movie was pretty successful, they fired him from the role and decided to recast the character for the 2012 movie The Avengers, which is where Mark Ruffalo took on the role. Edward was reportedly fired from this role because of clashes on set. Some people have said that Edward would be very controlling on set, and reports say that the one defining moment that really solidified Marvel's decision to fire Norton came after he and some studio executives got into a pretty heated argument over their desire to add more action scenes to the film. That decision did not sit well with Norton because he wanted the film to be more dramatic, not action-based, and apparently he hulked out when he didn't get his way. Honestly, Mark's portrayal of the Hulk is so spot on that I couldn't imagine how the MCU would have gone on so successfully without him. At number 7, Gina Carano. One Hollywood star who was recently fired is Gina Carano, and she was let go from Disney after a lot of drama caused the company to sever their ties with the actress. There were several reasons why they wanted to fire Gina. She had been facing backlash for many of her controversial tweets, some of which included messages like comparing being a Republican to being Jewish during World War II, making claims of voter fraud during the 2020 election, as well as making anti-mask posts. There were also reports that there was a lot of conflict between the actress and some company executives while she was working on The Mandalorian, which caused people to want to let her go. According to sources, Disney had been looking to cut ties with the actress for a while because of the conflict with her, so the social media scandal she was facing became the last straw for them, and they ended up letting her go. Seems like her firing was a long time coming. At number 6, Winston Marshall. I don't know if you could really consider being kicked out of a band as getting fired, but I think it's close enough. Mumford & Sons musician Winston Marshall was recently let go from the folk rock band, and some say that his career is kind of over. The musician recently came under fire after he was called out on Twitter for praising the book Unmasked inside Antifa's radical plan to destroy democracy. The book in question is said to, quote, condemn the destructive rise of Antifa. The content resonated so deeply with Winston that he even tweeted the book's author where he called him a brave man for publishing this content. This message of support angered a lot of people and resulted in him facing mass scrutiny from many fans. After facing this backlash, Marshall tweeted a series of apologies to everyone he offended, saying that he understands that people, including many of his bandmates, have been hurt by his comments, and also saying, quote, for now, please know that I realize how my endorsements have the potential to be viewed as approval of hateful, divisive behavior. I apologize as this was not my intention. The guitarist faced a lot of backlash from fans online as they pointed out how his personal views can come across as highly offensive. Because of his cancellations by fans, the band reportedly held an emergency meeting where they discussed Winston's place in the group, and in response to the band's actions of kicking him out, he said that he was going to use this time off to, quote, examine his blind spots. There hasn't been any information saying whether or not he will be returning to the group and what this might mean for his career. At number 5, Thora Birch. Thora Birch was once a rising star in Hollywood. From starring in Hocus Pocus to American Beauty, she was finding a lot of success in the industry, but due to a number of reported conflicts with a number of executives, Thora hasn't been finding the same level of success that she once was. Some say that she's even been blacklisted from Hollywood. Thora isn't solely to blame for her career troubles, as it is believed that much of this has to do with Thora's father and the conflicts that he's been involved in. The first big career-defining conflict came from back in 2010, when it was reported that Thora had been fired from an off-Broadway production of Dracula because her father would frequently accompany Thora to set and had physically threatened other actors. Thora was also fired from her project Manson Girls after her father allegedly got into an argument with production. Between 2010 and 2018, Thora reportedly only booked one gig, and the actress has said that much of that has to do with her bad reputation in the industry. She's also said that she's angered a lot of people over the years, so this could be one of the reasons she's been fired from Hollywood. At number 4, Chris Harrison. Bachelor Nation was hit with a pretty big scandal this year. Bachelor/Bachelorette host Chris Harrison faced backlash for comments that he made regarding another contestant's past. At the beginning of the Bachelor season early this year, photos of one of the Bachelor contestants was released which showed her attending an antebellum themed party. This was seen as racist and very offensive because of the history of the antebellum South. When this scandal first broke, Chris was asked about his thoughts on the matter, and he responded with some comments that fans perceived as perpetuating racism. In an interview on Extra, when asked about the contestant's controversial photos, Chris seemingly defended her actions of her being at this party because it was, quote, back in 2018. Rachel Lindsay, a past contestant and the show's first Black Bachelorette, questioned Chris on this, saying that it doesn't matter if it happened in 2018 or 2021, saying that it's never a good look. Chris continued to try and defend his stance, going back to the fact that this took place 3 years ago, but it still didn't win anyone over.
I don't disagree with you. You're 100% right in 2021. That was not the case in 2018.
Chris has since been fired from The Bachelor and will not be returning to host the next season of The Bachelorette. After apologizing for his remarks, Chris has said that he will make an effort to return down the line, but we don't know if he will be welcomed back on the show or if any network will hire him later on after this. At number 3, Shia LaBeouf. Late last year, Shia LaBeouf faced criticisms after his ex-girlfriend FKA Twigs exposed the actor for having hurt her while they were together. The singer issued a lawsuit against him, citing him as her abuser, where she accused him of verbally and physically assaulting her while they were together. Twigs recounted the many instances of violence against her as well as others, and this painted a pretty damaging picture for the former Disney star. This isn't the first time Shia has been exposed for his behavior, as in the past Shia has also made headlines for getting into conflict, as people have called him erratic and aggressive. This scandal came about after he made headlines for being fired from a movie set as well. Though people thought he was making a real comeback to film after being cast in the movie Don't Worry Darling, he was ultimately fired and recast because people on set clashed with the actor, with some saying that he was very aggressive. When Twigs came out with her allegations against him and her recounts of other violent instances like harming animals to get into character, people started to think that maybe he doesn't belong in Hollywood anymore. He's been pretty quiet since this scandal happened, and since he's been fired from one job already, it might make things difficult to find another later on. At number 2, Robert Downey Jr. RDJ may have been responsible for someone getting fired from a movie role in the past, but he's also been fired by Hollywood in the past as well. Robert has had a rocky past. He started off his Hollywood career at a young age, but soon he was caught in scandal after scandal until he hit rock bottom. He didn't really get his comeback until he was cast in Iron Man. After his success in the MCU, you'd think that his days of being fired would be over, but think again. Robert was actually fired from the set of the movie Gravity after a last-minute decision was made to recast him. The 2013 film Gravity stars George Clooney as a leading male, but that role was first given to RDJ. After a few days of filming, the director decided that Robert just wasn't suited to play this role. He said, quote, "Robert is incredibly talented, but the technological aspects of the movie presented a big obstacle to his style of acting." Clooney soon replaced Robert, and the film went on to be a pretty big success, but one has to wonder what the movie would have been like had they not recast the role. And finally at number 1, Natalie Portman. Here's another last-minute casting change that would have altered the whole film. The 1996 film Romeo and Juliet stars Leonardo DiCaprio and Claire Danes, but originally Natalie Portman was supposed to play the role of Juliet. Natalie was 13 years old at the time, and though it is canonically how old Juliet would have been in the original Shakespeare play, executives thought it would be a little too weird if the 13-year-old Natalie starred in the film alongside a 21-year-old Leo. Years later, in an interview, Natalie said, quote, "It was really disappointing, but I wouldn't have wanted to be in the movie and have it look wrong. It was a mutual decision, but in the end, Natalie was fired from the role. It would have been weird to see her in the role, but still, one has to wonder how the movie would have turned out had the change never happened." Now, I want you guys to tell me down in the comments about who you would want to portray you in a movie about yourself. It's an interesting thought, so which celebrity do you think would best capture you?
Number 10, Chris D'Elia. Chris is one of the only people on this list who was fired and replaced after the film had wrapped shooting. Chris D'Elia was well known for his stand-up career, but has been attempting to make a move to TV and film for the past few years. In 2021, he snagged a role in Zack Snyder's upcoming zombie action flick on Netflix, Army of the Dead. Initially, he was cast to play one of the Marines dropped into the middle of a zombie-infested Vegas to rob a rich guy's bank vault. And yeah, that's basically the plot of the movie. He starred alongside action heavyweights like Dave Bautista, Omari Hardwick, and Hiroyuki Sanada, who I respect so much, please don't slice me up for mispronouncing your name. The film had completely wrapped production when numerous allegations surrounding Chris's misconduct began to surface, and it turned out that they were all absolutely accurate. It was ultimately decided that Chris would be deleted from the project and replaced by comedian Tig Notaro. Snyder ended up having to ramp production back in full gear and film all of D'Elia's scenes with Tig in his place. The universe works in mysterious ways, however, though, as Tig's turn as Marianne Peters is considered to be the overall best part of the movie, which isn't really saying much because Zack was clearly trying stuff during this movie and it just didn't work at all. He somehow made a zombie tiger more hilarious than adorable. I'm not sure how you do that. Number 9, Julianne Moore. Creative differences. The phrase that has been behind some of the most tragic Hollywood stories of films that could have been, and in this case, roles. For an industry centered around creativity, the movie industry can be awfully risk-averse, especially when it comes to the decision of casting your lead. It's not uncommon for actors to suddenly be thrust out of productions in lieu of a new face, or in some cases, the original choice that they had been replacing. A good example of doing it to yourself, though, is Julianne Moore. The actor for films like the 2013 reboot of Carrie and the action flick flick Kingsman: The Golden Circle, was set to play the leading lady in the acclaimed dramedy Can You Ever Forgive Me? She was casted as the character Lee Israel, a writer who falls out of step with current culture and decides to embellish her writing, basically inventing the concept of fake news. Julianne began filming her scenes, but was asked to leave the production only a month into filming. According from the director Nicole's portrayal of her character was not what she had in mind while writing. You see, Julianne played the role with just too much of herself influencing overall. When directed to try and play the role in another way, Julianne just continued to give a similar performance and was ultimately replaced by Melissa McCarthy, better known for her more comedic roles in movies like The Heat and Bridesmaids, but her turn as Lee is considered to be one of her greatest acting achievements of all time, even landing her a nomination for Best Actress at the 2019 Oscar ceremony. Julianne didn't take the news all that well, but did eventually move on and has made a couple of solid flicks ever since, so I don't know, it all worked out in the end at this one. Number 8. Colin Firth. The Paddington movies, based on the classic children's book written by Michael Bond, are some of the most critically acclaimed family films of the 21st century. When it came out, Paddington 2 actually ranked over Citizen Kane as the most universally loved movie ever made. One of the many reasons that this franchise is so successful is due in part to the voice behind the bear, Ben Whishaw, whose last name sounds like the noise ninjas make in movies. Whishaw! It surprises many to know, however, that Ben was actually a last-minute replacement for the first pick, Colin Firth. Colin was initially attached to voice the titular bear through the entirety of the first film's production, with a trailer even being released including some of his pre-recorded dialogue. Colin is another actor who recorded every single one of their lines before getting the rug ripped out from underneath them. According to Firth, he actually wasn't informed that he had been replaced until the film was released without his voice in the role. He told Entertainment Weekly, "It's been bittersweet to see this delightful creature take shape and come to the sad realization that he simply doesn't have my voice." The decision was actually due to his voice just not fitting with the bear during the editing process. He sounded a bit too mature and proper, whereas Ben's turn as the character is bubbly and considered to be one of the most loved modern cartoon bears since Yogi and Boo Boo. Number 7. Eric Stoltz. Alright, let's talk a little bit about the 1985 comedy sci-fi Back to the Future. I loved this movie growing up. The story followed Marty McFly, a high school student who's accidentally sent back to 1955 in a DeLorean invented by his close friend and scientist Dr. Emmett Brown, played by Christopher Lloyd, and he's forced to get his future parents back together before he disappears from existence entirely. Seriously, whoever pitched that movie must have been lacking in sleep. The film went on to spawn 2 sequels, creating what is considered to be one of the greatest film trilogies of all time. While Michael J. Fox may have played the iconic Marty McFly, he actually was not the first actor to don the puffy vest on set. A young man named Eric Stoltz was initially casted to play the role. You may not recognize Eric's face, as his most famous character was drenched in prosthetics and makeup, playing the character of Roy L. Dennis in the film Mask. He's a man with severe facial and skull deformities. He was nearly halfway through shooting the flick when the news came that he was going to be replaced with Michael J. Fox. Fox was actually the director Robert Zemeckis' first choice, but was initially unable to sign on to the project due to his prior commitments to the sitcom Family Ties. Eventually though, the 2 studios were able to find a way to work out his schedule and allow him to film both projects simultaneously. This is why you may notice that the majority of scenes that take place outside are actually at night, as it was the only time that he could film for a good 60% of the shoot. Robert wanted Eric out from the beginning, however, as his portrayal of the character was far more intense than the writers had in mind. Not to mention, Eric's read of the end of the movie was a tragedy instead of a happy ending. Hey, spoiler alert, at the end of the first film, Marty returns to 1985 after successfully getting his parents together, but instead of being poor and sad, the family is now thriving and successful. Somehow Eric took that as Marty being an outsider in a world that he didn't know, but just look at the truck that was parked in his garage when he got back. There's nothing tragic about that. His intensity combined with his depressing performance of the finale got him kicked off of the shoot only minutes after Fox became available. Number 6. Samantha Morton. A little Oscar gem was released in 2013 called Her. It's a romantic drama starring the future Joker actor Joaquin Phoenix as a man who becomes entranced with his new AI Samantha, who was voiced by Scarlett Johansson. She may just be a phone, but hey man, I'd fall for a Siri if she sounded like that too. However, the initial voice of Samantha was supposed to be portrayed by Walking Dead actor Samantha Morton, who actually recorded all of her lines for the character before she was let go. The reason? Well, apparently her portrayal of Samantha just did not vibe with what they had in mind for the character. When they got into the editing room, the team discovered that Samantha and Joaquin's performances just didn't mesh together in the way that was intended. Director Spike Jonze revealed at the 2013 American Film Institute Festival that Samantha was really involved with Joaquin had to work with on set. Her voice was being played in his ear during almost every scene to help with his delivery. Things were going well, but after reviewing the footage of his performance, it was clear that this was not going to be the right combination. These guys had zero chemistry together. They let her go and replaced her with Scarlett Johansson, who actually had to record her lines in between filming Captain America: Winter Soldier. It's hard to convey real emotions through voice acting at times, but Scarlett had no problem with that. It was nominated for Best Picture, and Spike Jonze won an Oscar for Best Original Screenplay. I know the description of this movie is a little weird, but hey, definitely give it a watch if you've never seen it.
At number 5, Holly Hunter. Another big last-minute change that ended with a celebrity losing their job comes from the 2005 animated film Chicken Little, and it has a very big change. We all know the film as being centered around a little chicken who thinks the sky is falling, but we also know that the main character is a boy. Turns out that originally Chicken Little was a girl and she was voiced by Holly Hunter. The actress had lent her voice to the film and she recorded her lines for the entire film. She worked on this movie for 8 months, but after all that hard work, the studio decided to take the character in a different direction and made Chicken Little into a male character. Holly was replaced by Zach Braff, who re-recorded the lines for the film and had his voice pitched up in post-production. I honestly would have loved to see the film have a female lead, but I guess it was just too good and the studio wouldn't want our brains to explode from how awesome it was. At number 4, James Gunn. In another case of tweets that got people fired, we have director James Gunn. Some of Gunn's old tweets were exposed in 2018 and they offended quite a number of people. The tweets included some incredibly offensive and controversial themes like inappropriate remarks and talking about hurting others, as well as other insensitive messages. As a result, Disney fired James just before production was set to begin on Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and in a statement released by the company, the executives at Disney said, quote, "The offensive attitudes and statements discovered on James' Twitter feed are indefensible and inconsistent with our studio's values, and we have severed our business relationship with him." After issuing an apology to the public, it seems as though James successfully won over the executives at Disney and was rehired to direct Guardians 3, but has everyone really gotten over James' tweets, or will people just use them against him? Let me know what you think down in the comments. At number 3, Roseanne Barr. Actress and comedian Roseanne Barr was finding a lot of success for herself after her sitcom reboot got off the ground, but all of that went away in 2018 after a Twitter scandal had her cancelled and fired from her network. Soon her good press about her show getting renewed for a new season turned sour, and all eyes were on Roseanne after she faced backlash for an offensive and racist tweet about Barack Obama's former senior advisor, Valerie Jarrett. Roseanne tweeted comparing Valerie to an ape, and as a result, Roseanne had her show and career cancelled. Though she later deleted the tweet and issued a public apology for her offensive actions, nothing could really save her career at this point, and now she's believed to have been blacklisted from Hollywood as a result. The actress later tried to backtrack, claiming that she thought Valerie Jarrett was white, but no one was really buying into her excuse, and it just made things worse for her instead of better. Roseanne has also gone on to say in interviews that Hollywood shunned her because of her political beliefs, saying that it's unfair, but right now, no one's really looking to help her redeem herself in the eyes of Hollywood. At number 2, Edward Norton. If you're a Marvel fan, then you may recall that there have been 2 different actors who have portrayed the Hulk in the MCU. Although many of us know Mark Ruffalo as the coveted green guy, actor Edward Norton was the one who first took on the role in the 2008 movie The Incredible Hulk. Though that movie was pretty successful, they fired him from the role and decided to not rehire him for the 2012 movie The Avengers, which is where Mark Ruffalo took on the role. Edward was reportedly fired from his role because of clashes on set. Some people have said that Edward can be very controlling on set, and the one event that really solidified Marvel's decision to fire Norton came after he and some studio executives got into a heated argument over their desire to add more action scenes to the film. That decision just didn't really sit right with Norton, and apparently he hulked out. Honestly, I couldn't imagine the MCU in the position it is now without Mark Ruffalo, so I think it was a good creative decision, but what do you guys think? And finally, number 1, Megan Fox. After having a significant role in the Transformers films, actress Megan Fox was fired from her role and she faced a lot of backlash. Not too long ago, Megan spoke out about her Hollywood career and how it has caused her so many personal problems, like people seeing her as nothing but a hot woman and not the skilled actress that she really is. When she was fired from Transformers, Michael Bay said that the decision came after she was, quote, a nightmare to work with. This comment came about after Megan made a comment on set about how strict Michael was to work with, and when fellow director Steven Spielberg caught wind of these comments, he advised Bay to fire her, and that is exactly what happened. This reputation of being difficult to work with studios really followed Megan for a while as people saw her in a negative light, though none of that was really true. Now Megan is doing her own thing and is living her truth as an outspoken feminist and a proud supporter of the Me Too movement, so really she just uses this negativity as fuel. You go, Megan.
At number 10, we have Daniel Kim and Grace Park, who acted in the rebooted CBS action crime drama series Hawaii Five-0 from the start of 2010. For 7 long years, the duo played their characters Chin Ho Kelly and Konu Kolokoa until they were forced off the show in 2017 because of a contract dispute. Reportedly, Daniel and Grace were both looking to receive equal pay that their co-stars Alex O'Loughlin and Scott Conn were obtaining. It was stated that CBS would not waver their final decision and set a disclosed amount of 10 to 15% lower pay grade than their castmates. Eventually, CBS went on to write Daniel and Grace out of their show in the 8th season, and in it their removal was addressed in true drama show fashion during the premiere. Funnily enough though, it's said that the drama off screen was even juicier. Despite the network issuing glowing statements in regards to their departed stars, Grace was all but thrilled when Peter Lenkoff, her former showrunner, released a tweet with indications that Grace had left the series to focus on family. Grace detailed the occurrence by explaining how the situation felt very charged to her, as well as that she did not feel it was right of Peter to make a statement on her behalf, regardless of whether or not he had good intentions. She finalized by informing Deadline that she cared about Peter as an individual, but that she did not leave the show because of what he implied. At number 9, we have Valerie Harper's self-titled sitcom where she starred alongside Jason Bateman with high spirits due to the fact that the show's ratings were increasing. Valerie was said to be headed in a promisingly strong direction for its 3rd season, and Harper decided this was as good as any time to inquire about a raise. In accordance with People, by Valerie's 3rd year, she was contracted to receive $56,750 per episode, with an additional 10% of the show's adjusted gross profits. Rather, Valerie requested there be a new contract drawn of $100,000 and 35% of added profits instead. When the studio refused to play into Valerie's demands, she pulled out an old ruse that once worked for her 12 years prior as the star of Rhoda. For this one, her request for a raise was denied. She denied showing up for work until she got what she wanted. However, her holdout tactic was not successful the following time, as Valerie's production team agreed to terms of a new contract worth $65,000 per episode with 12.5% of profits. This is what sparked Valerie's return to set, but she was let go after filming a single episode. As a result, the Valerie writers killed off her character and rebranded the show as Valerie's Family for the 3rd season. The following season, the show got a new name once more called The Hogan Family, and while the sitcom maintained its popularity without its original star, Valerie's karma came in full circle when she successfully sued production on the grounds of wrongful dismissal. At number 8, we have the crazy saga of Marcus Chong and The Matrix. His story comes after the success of The Matrix when the film creators had pitched for a double sequel. The writing/director team of the Wachowskis initially wanted to reprise Marcus with a reported offer of $250,000, but Marcus was seeking a whopping $1 million, a seemingly bizarre negotiation tactic which presumably later backfired and got him removed from the franchise. He was killed off between the first and final movies. Allegedly, after asking for $1 million, Marcus's lawyer delivered an ultimatum to the Wachowskis in a letter. In it, a matching sum of $500,000 with added bonuses and promises to receive press premiere guarantees was offered, or oppositely, Marcus would do the movies for free. Following the latter, Marcus apparently publicly added that he was being threatened and spoke on the behalf of Andy Wachowski on a call, which brought about more drama and confusion. At one point, he was reportedly taken into custody for making threats and later unsuccessfully sued the production company and distributors of The Matrix. At number 7, we have Muppet star Steve Whitmire. Despite there being several reported reasonings for the Kermit the Frog voice actor and puppeteer's axe from Disney, the big deal breaker was supposedly money. Apparently, one of the reasons given for Steve's dismissal was his refusal to work on a specific project because of an alleged contract dispute. However, Steve told The Hollywood Reporter that he was a casualty of a classified contract dispute between AFTRA and Disney labor relations. According to THR, Disney and the Muppet studio, though, Steve's negotiation tactics pushed back production for many years, even going as far back as the Sesame Street days of voicing Ernie and Kermit. A source informed Gizmodo that he was let go for demanding too much money and not for focusing on the Muppets after Sesame Street. At number 6, we have former Family Matter actress Jamie Foxworth. Now, there's no hard confirmation from the cast nor crew as to why Jamie was ever dismissed, but there have been so many rumors stringed from her role's strange removal on the show, where her then character Judy exits a scene up the stairs in season 4 and never comes back down. According to FM's co-creator William Bickley, Jamie's exit came about because of budget considerations, but many allege that her mother was behind the actress's dismissal. A mysteriously reported BET article hinted that the responsibility should be placed on her mother and then manager Gwen Fox, in light of Jamie's contract not being renewed for demanding more money. The position Gwen held makes the story plausible, but regardless, Jamie's career never fully recovered from the early setback. Still, Jamie has kept a pretty lighthearted and humorous attitude about the entire ordeal.
Halfway number 5, Chris Cuomo. CNN's Chris Cuomo has officially been fired from his network after an investigation uncovered the anchor helped his brother, disgraced Governor Andrew Cuomo, during his scandal. Andrew Cuomo's crimes include government corruption and sexual misconduct. Earlier, they announced he was going to be suspended, barring the results of the investigation, but partway through they uncovered evidence to fire him. CNN writes, quote, "While in the process of that review, additional information had come to light. Despite the termination, we will investigate as appropriate." This all came on the heels of an investigation by the New York Attorney General's office, which suggested that he was heavily involved in his brother's scandal. Following his termination, reports are coming out that Chris was accused of sexual harassment, and that's part of the reason for his termination. So it's clear no network will want to touch him now. And at number 4, Rush Limbaugh. The late Rush Limbaugh was a radio giant and had the biggest radio show in the country for many years. But before he became known for his own show, he was a football commentator for ESPN that ended up getting fired. During his stint as a football analyst on ESPN's Sunday NFL Countdown in 2003, he was commentating on quarterback Donovan McNabb, and said, quote, "The media has been very serious that a black quarterback do well. There is little hope invested in McNabb, and he has a lot of credit for the performances of his team that he didn't deserve. The defense carried this team." After the comments, he got tons of backlash considering they were clearly racially charged, and Limbaugh was only supposed to be speaking about the performance of these athletes. In the end, he decided to resign from the position, I'm sure after some long talks with the network. He said in a statement, quote, "The great people at ESPN did not want to deal with this kind of reaction." After leaving that gig, he started up his own radio show called The Rush Limbaugh Show, and it was a huge hit right up until he passed away. And at number 3, Mike Richards. After the passing of legendary Jeopardy host Alex Trebek, Mike Richards stepped in as one of the potential frontrunners to replace him as host. Richards had been an executive producer on the show for years prior and decided to put his hat in the ring to host when the position became available. However, that stint did not last, and shortly after Richards was announced as the new host, problematic behavior from his past started to resurface. These allegations were regarding Richards' behavior and comments towards women and minorities. Following the backlash, he was not only fired as host, but he was also fired from his executive producer position. The show released a statement saying, quote, "We had hoped that when Mike stepped down from the host position at Jeopardy, it would have minimized the disruption and internal difficulties we have all experienced these last few weeks. That clearly has not happened." And at number 2, Nick Cannon. Nick Cannon was fired from many of his shows and hosting gigs after he went on a strange anti-Semitic rant. In June of 2020, Nick Cannon was interviewing Professor Griff, who has a history of making anti-Semitic comments. During this interview, Cannon went on a bizarre rant calling Jewish and white people savages. At one point he said, quote, "The people that don't have melanin are a little less." Adding, quote, "They're acting as animals, so they're the ones that are actually closer to animals. They're the ones that are actually the true savages." After Cannon did not apologize for the comments, Viacom CBS cut ties with Cannon. He was fired from Wild 'N Out, an improv series that he had hosted and starred in for 15 seasons. Cannon has also hosted other shows for Viacom CBS-owned Nickelodeon channel over more than 20 years and was named chairman of spin-off Teen Nick in 2009. In a statement, the network said, quote, "Viacom CBS condemns bigotry of any kind. We categorically denounce any forms of anti-Semitism." And finally, number 1, Tom Bergeron. Tom Bergeron hosted the hit show Dancing with the Stars since it started in 2005. But that all changed in 2020 when he was abruptly fired. Since then, he has given more details, and it's clear that he and production butted heads. In one interview, he admitted that he saw it coming and was not shocked when he was fired. This is because he had spoken up against the things he disagreed with, to the dismay of the show. Bergeron said, quote, "The show had changed a lot for me starting in early 2008. The show I left was not the show that I loved. We had very clear, sometimes public differences of opinion about the new showrunner and some of the execs, and happily, I was at a point in my life and career where I didn't have to just shut up and take it." Although he never got into specifics, it was rumored that a huge point of contention between him and the show were the political stars that came on. He previously shared his disagreement with President Trump's former press secretary, Sean Spicer, coming on the show.
At number 10, Armie Hammer. Actor Armie Hammer caused the year's first big Hollywood scandal after making headlines as some intimate DMs were leaked on social media, which showed Armie talking about his bedroom fantasies. The page House of Effie exposed the leaked messages, exposing some of their adult content. Some of the things discussed in the messages were Armie's desire to eat people, and some people, like ex-partners, have come forward with their personal accounts of Armie's fantasies. But this isn't all that Armie is being scrutinized for. Armie has also been accused of assault. Because of this bombshell story, Armie has been losing work from all sides. When the scandal first broke, he made the decision to back out of an upcoming film project alongside Jennifer Lopez, and he also dropped out of a series he was cast for Paramount+. On top of that, he's been fired from a number of other projects as a result of the allegations against him. Armie has also been dropped by his agent and personal publicist. Hollywood has essentially fired the actor, as they will definitely not be casting Armie in any upcoming projects anytime soon, and because he's pretty much lost all of his networking connections. At number 9, Chris D'Elia. 2020 saw the cancellation of a lot of people. A lot of celebrities ended up in some hot water, and comedian Chris D'Elia was one of the stars who hit rock bottom. Chris D'Elia faced multiple allegations of sexual misconduct and harassing underage girls online last year, and this has caused him to essentially be fired from Hollywood. After multiple women came forward to share their unpleasant experiences with the comedian, from unwanted advances to indecent exposure and manipulation, Chris has lost all support and credibility in the industry. Though this scandal started last year, now in 2020, Chris is facing more allegations, and a lawsuit was filed in early March accusing Chris of soliciting private content from a young woman under the age of 18. Though this happened in 2014 when she was 17, she said that she was inspired by the other women who've come forward to tell their story and seek justice. Chris's actions and experiences with these women have not only impacted their lives, but his as well, because as a result of his actions, Chris was dropped by his agency and manager. He will be hard-pressed to find any work in the industry now. Now, before I go any further, I'd like to ask you guys to consider leaving a like on this video if you're enjoying it so far, because it really does help the channel out a lot. At number 8, Chadwick Boseman. The late Chadwick Boseman was an incredible actor. Each role he played was done amazingly, from playing King T'Challa in Black Panther to portraying Jackie Robinson in 42. Besides being a talented actor, he was also someone who fought for Black lives, and so when he saw something unjust or discriminatory, he was quick to call it out. This is a very good trait to have, but apparently it can get you fired. Chadwick once spoke out about how he was once fired from a soap opera for pointing out some discriminatory things in the show. While on All My Children, his first credited on-screen role, Chadwick played a character who was part of a gang. Chadwick explained that he asked, quote, why his character didn't have a father and why his mother was unable to care for her children. He told the show executives, quote, if we're out here assuming that Black characters on the show are criminals on drugs and have deadbeat parents, then that would probably be stereotypical. The executives didn't like that Chadwick questioned the character, and so he was fired from the show the next day. He was replaced on the show by Michael B. Jordan, both of whom went on to star in Black Panther together. Chadwick stood up for something and got fired for it, but it didn't matter because he went on to have an amazing career regardless. At number 7, Isaiah Washington. If you know Isaiah Washington, then you're probably a fan of Grey's Anatomy. The actor is a fan favorite, but after a scandal shook his career, he was fired from Hollywood for a short time. Isaiah left his role on Grey's for a number of reasons. Firstly, there was some on-set drama that blew up because he allegedly didn't get along with co-star Patrick Dempsey, and it was also alleged that they even got into a physical altercation. The scandal that really did him in, though, was his controversial use of a gay slur. He used this offensive language when referring to one of his other co-stars, T.R. Knight. As a result of his actions, he was fired from the show, and this behavior apparently led to him being blacklisted from Hollywood for a few years. He truly had been fired from Hollywood. No one wanted to work with him because his homophobic scandal was still fresh in many people's minds. People weren't really quick to forget these sort of things. Eventually, he was able to make amends and found his way back to the screen in Grey's as he took up his character's story once again. His Hollywood ban was short-lived, but it did do a number on his career regardless. At number 6, Terrence Howard. Nowadays, everyone knows actor Don Cheadle as the one who plays Colonel James Rhodes, aka War Machine, in the MCU, but that's not always how it was. In the first Iron Man film, the character was played by Terrence Howard, but after only one movie, Terrence was fired. Terrence was replaced, and in 2013, he explained what happened. During an interview, Terrence spoke out about how he had signed a 3-movie contract, but by the time it came around to filming the second movie, the studio proposed a much smaller paycheck, and when asked where his money went, he was told that the budget went to RDJ. He tried to negotiate a bigger salary, but talks didn't go well, and he was let go from the project. Terrence said, quote, "It turns out that the person I helped become Iron Man, when it was time to re-up for the second one, he took the money that was supposed to go to me and pushed me out." His career in the MCU was certainly short-lived. At number 5, Piers Morgan. Meghan Markle and Prince Harry's interview with Oprah was one of the biggest newsmakers of the year so far, and it still has a lot of people talking and sharing criticisms. In the interview, a lot of deep personal insight was shared, and many comments Meghan and Harry made were heavily discussed by news outlets. One of the things that was said by Meghan Markle that was picked apart the most were her comments on her mental health before she and Harry split from the royal family. Meghan said that there was a period of time where she was really depressed and had thoughts of taking her own life. Broadcaster Piers Morgan decided to pick this information apart and said that in his opinion, he, quote, "didn't believe a word Meghan said." As a result, Piers and the network he worked for faced mass scrutiny for saying such a thing about someone's mental health, as it was seen as diminishing and offensive to dismiss the severity of such a thought as taking your own life. Because of the backlash he faced, Piers was promptly canceled online and later announced that he would no longer be working for the network. This was a crazy reason to lose his job, not because it's outrageous, but because this all could have been avoided had he not said what he said about another person's mental health. At number 4, Jussie Smollett. Here's a scandal that caused a lot of drama and ended in unemployment. Former Empire actor Jussie Smollett found himself in a lot of hot water for a while following the scandal and subsequent backlash he faced after he was caught making false police statements about an alleged hate crime. In January 2019, Jussie, who is an openly gay man, claimed to have been attacked by a group of people wearing masks who put a rope around his neck and shouted slurs at him. Jussie filed a statement with police recounting the event. However, after a police investigation ensued, they found that the claim was fake. It was later discovered that Jussie made the whole thing up because he was unhappy with his salary from Empire and figured that he could get more from an event like the one that he fabricated. The charges laid against him for making this false report were eventually dropped, but similar charges emerged last year, and Jussie was indicted. As a result of his scandal and legal issues, Jussie was promptly fired from Empire and has struggled to make things work for him in the industry since then. There was even a call to blacklist him from the entire industry. This just goes to show you that money can make people do just about anything, even make really bad choices. At number 3, Hartley Sawyer. This is yet another reminder that the internet is forever, and sometimes your past can come back to haunt you and even get you fired. After some of his highly offensive tweets came to light in 2020, actor Hartley Sawyer was fired from his role as Ralph Dibny on the CW show The Flash. This all happened around the height of the Black Lives Matter movement, and so in a show of accountability and respect to those he offended, the showrunners released a statement informing fans of the show of their decision to let Hartley go, where they said, quote, "In regards to Mr. Sawyer's posts on social media, we do not tolerate derogatory remarks that target any race, ethnicity, national origin, gender, or sexual orientation. Such remarks are anti-ethical to our values and policies, which strive and evolve to promote a safe, inclusive, and productive environment for our workplace." End quote. Since being fired, Hartley hasn't been around on social media or anywhere in the news. After being exposed like this, I'm guessing he's trying to lay low while The Flash continues on without him or his character. At number 2, Lori Loughlin. Actress Lori Loughlin not only lost a lot of money in legal fees, but she also lost her job on the Netflix Full House reboot, Fuller House. This all came after she was indicted on charges of conspiracy to commit wire and mail fraud after being caught in the college admissions scandal. After she and her husband Massimo pleaded guilty to the charges against them, they were sentenced to 2 and 5 months respectively, and though everything is said and done for them legally speaking, Lori is still out of a job and probably will be hard-pressed to find much work. As a result of this whole scandal, Lori was fired from Fuller House, and there have also been reports that she's been blacklisted from Hollywood. Whether those reports are actually true remains unknown, but the bottom line is her career is tarnished and so is her credibility. This all happened because the actress and her husband bribed their daughter into a good college, and so many people have pointed out how their wrongful use of their privilege is really what led them here. And finally at number 1, Lea Michele. TV and Broadway actress Lea Michele was cancelled in 2020 after a bunch of people came forward to expose her for her awful on-set behavior. Reports and accusations came out last summer detailing how she's been known to disrespect people she's worked with in the industry. This all started at the height of the Black Lives Matter movement, where one of Lea's Glee co-stars, Samantha Ware, called Lea out on how the actress made her time on the show a quote, living hell. This ultimately sparked a chain reaction of other people coming forward to talk about their horror stories of working with the actress, with some talking about how she would disrespect and talk down to background actors, how she would delay production, and how she would refuse to talk to anyone face to face and would force them to speak with her assistant instead. Because of all the negative attention Lea was getting, this ultimately led her to being fired by the brand HelloFresh, ending their partnership with the actress. They released a statement condemning the actress's actions, and since then, Lea has lost credibility and respect in Hollywood. Now I want you guys to tell me about a wild story from your workplace. It could be a Karen encounter or a story about a time where things just kept going wrong. I'm sure you guys have a lot of cool stories to share, so tell me about them down in the comments. At number 10, Chloe Grace Moretz. Disney is a bit of a controversial studio. They put a lot of pressure on their stars and like everything to be done in a certain way, so it doesn't surprise me that they would make a lot of last-minute creative decisions. One aspect of their franchise that is very perfectionist is their animation department, because Disney is sort of known for their animated films. Remember the 2008 animated Disney film Bolt, the movie about that cute little dog actor who wanted to be a real superhero? Well, this film is one that faced a last-minute change that cost someone their job. Though Miley Cyrus is the one who voiced Bolt's owner Penny, the role originally belonged to actress Chloe Grace Moretz. Chloe had actually recorded her lines for the entire movie before the decision was made to cut her from the film and replace her. It's believed that they thought her voice sounded too young for the character, so they found someone with a more mature voice, but luckily for Chloe, producers still credited her in the movie as the voice of young Penny. Her hard work wasn't completely scrapped since some of it was still kept in the final film, but still, being kicked from the project at the last minute has gotta be one of the worst feelings ever. At number 9, Eric Stoltz. When I hear about actors being replaced in movies, I sometimes wonder how the film would have been different with a different cast. One of the films I'm most curious about is Back to the Future, because after finding out that Michael J. Fox wasn't originally cast as Marty McFly, I wonder how things would have been different, because Michael was perfect for that role. Originally, the role went to actor Eric Stoltz, and they had filmed a substantial amount of footage with Eric as Marty McFly, but later the filmmakers decided that he just wasn't fit for the role. Eric Stoltz was a method actor, and he took his character very seriously, to the point where he asked cast members to refer to him as Marty McFly off camera. I guess this dedication to the role was just a little too serious for the film, because Marty's character is a little more laid back and goofy, and so they needed someone to fit that style. They ended up firing Eric and brought in Michael to fill in the role, reshooting many of the scenes that Eric had previously done. Though the final cut of the film is mostly Michael's work, it's believed that there are a few of Eric's scenes that made it through, so that's a little fun Easter egg to look out for next time you watch Back to the Future. Now before I carry on with the list, I'd like to ask you guys to consider leaving a like on this video if you're enjoying it so far, and also check out my gaming channel Viper Girl if you're interested in having some fun gaming time with me. At number 8, Kathy Griffin. Kathy Griffin has always been a controversial person. She's been in her fair share of controversies, but one of her biggest scandals happened back in 2017 when she made headlines after a photo was posted online of her holding a replica of Donald Trump's head, all severed and bloody. When this photo was originally released, all hell broke loose and her career was severely damaged. Because of the backlash that she suffered as a result of this post, she was reportedly blacklisted from Hollywood. CNN ended up cutting ties with her as this scandal caused her to lose out on a lot of her credibility, and Trump as well as his family addressed the picture, calling it disgusting, and many other supporters were not impressed by Kathy's actions. Kathy later issued an apology for her actions, but this post was really something that she could not come back from. She received a lot of hate, and people even made up some serious rumors about her quote-unquote political agenda. Originally, she apologized for her actions and said that she regretted posting it after seeing how so many people took offense to it, but she's seemingly gone back on that regret as she reposted the photo to her social media following the events of the US presidential election. But I mean, it's not like she can get fired again, right? At number 7, Mark Webber. Back in 2019, actor Mark Webber, known for his role in Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, had some harsh words for TV network ABC after he was fired from their show Stumptown. At the time, the show had just been picked up by the network and was working on producing the series, and Mark was cast in a lead role as the best friend and love interest opposite Colby Smolder's character Dax, whom the show is centered around. Mark said that he was fired fired from his role on the show because he wasn't, quote, handsome enough for executives. In response, he took to Twitter to blast the network, calling their choice degrading. In one of his many tweets slamming ABC, he said, quote, "Look, I'm a straight white male, so I know my journey has been way less painful in this warped industry, but I'm being recast in a network television show because I'm not handsome enough for the executive. It's important for me to share the real pain we endure in this industry," end quote. He also spoke out about how the industry is so fixated on the appearances of their stars, saying how things need to be changed. Though there were some people coming to support Mark, others said that this was kind of whiny. But what do you guys think? Did he have a point, or was he just acting on his anger? At number 6, Hartley Sawyer. We've seen so many celebrities get canceled because of things they've said in the past. Old interviews and appearances have been dug up before, leading to another celebrity having to own up to their mistake. But one thing that most celebrities fall victim to is resurfaced tweets. For actor Hartley Sawyer, his past tweets not only got him fired, but has seemingly cost him his whole Hollywood career. After some of his past racist, sexist, and offensive tweets came to light earlier last year, Hartley was fired from his role as Ralph Dibny on the CW show The Flash. This all happened as the Black Lives Matter movement began to gain traction last summer, and while people were calling on celebrities to own up to their past mistakes, Hartley's tweets were deemed too controversial and offensive to recover from. After firing the actor, the Flash showrunners released a statement informing fans of the show's decision to let Hartley go, where they said, quote, "In regards to Mr. Sawyer's posts on social media, we do not tolerate derogatory remarks that target any race, ethnicity, national origin, gender, or sexual orientation. Such remarks are anti-ethical to our values and policies, which strive and evolve to promote a safe, inclusive, and productive environment for our workforce," end quote. Since being fired from the show, Hartley's career has pretty much been tanked, and he's considered blacklisted.
Number 5, Holly Hunter. If you took a poll of the best Disney movies of all time, you'll likely see that the animated kids classic Chicken Little is one of the worst movies that Disney's ever produced. My girlfriend and I watched it like a month ago and it does not hold up at all, just trash. The movie, released in 2005, was Disney's 46th animated feature and holds the title of being their very first fully computer animated movie. Toy Story doesn't count as it's technically a Pixar property, which specializes in CGI content, so suck it up. Disney got pretty far into production with the actress Holly Hunter, who you may recognize from shows like Saving Grace or Succession, but she's probably best known by her voice playing the role of Elastigirl in the Pixar classic The Incredibles. She was initially cast to play the titular chicken, and the studio had over half of her lines recorded for the flick, but then decided to shift the project into a more action-packed movie. They rewrote the protagonist as a boy instead of a girl, because girls can't do boy stuff, that's insane! After over 8 months of voiceover work for Hunter, she was replaced with comedian and Scrubs actor Zach Braff. It didn't matter what the studio did, this movie was destined to be a flop and currently sits at a score of 37% on Rotten Tomatoes. I know her being fired had nothing to do with her attitude, but her being recasted because the studio wanted to shift the gender of her character to appeal to boys? I mean, come on, that's pretty messed up and deserves to be mentioned. Number 4, Henry Winkler. Henry Winkler is best known for his role as the Fonz on Happy Days, and he was set to direct Tom Hanks in his much-loved buddy cop movie Turner and Hooch. Unfortunately, these two had a pretty rough history together before that though. The Fonz had actually fought with Hanks in character on a set of Happy Days for one episode a few years prior. It would appear that Tom wishes he could fight Henry for real though, as rumor has it, the two of them just never got along at all. So much so that a few days into shooting Turner and Hooch with Henry behind the wheel, Hanks ordered Winkler to be removed from the set and replaced as the director. That's the kind of power Tom Hanks wields, you know? You can just walk on set and be like, no. Not only did Tom complain that Henry's behavior as director was annoying, he claimed that Henry was just overall bad at his job. He would take double the average time to reset a shot on set, he had minimal control over his actors, and he was apparently just always frustrated with having a dog on set. Like he didn't even read the script before he took the gig. That dog is a national treasure, man. What makes this firing even more tragic is the fact that when Winkler was delivered the news, one of the film's producers ripped Henry's contract up right in front of his face. Over the years, when asked about the incident, Henry denies that he's ever had any kind of personal or professional issues with Tom, but like, Tom's never given us any reason to think that he would lie about something like that. What would he have to gain, you know? Haha, I've defeated the Fonz. Like, hey man, so did ABC when they canceled the show. Number 3, Jean-Claude Van Damme. The Belgian actor Jean-Claude Van Damme was just on the verge of coming into his own career as the muscles from Brussels when he landed a job opposite opposite of Arnold Schwarzenegger in 1987's action flick Predator. This sounded like the perfect casting choice. Jean would have worked alongside the likes of Carl Weathers and Jesse Ventura. While that may have turned out cool, the reality was that Jean wasn't casted to play a role as one of the Marines at all. Instead, he was casted to play the titular Predator himself. The special effects artist behind the project's Call the Experience was Jean as a hilarious comedy of errors, in which no party knew exactly what the other was expecting. Apparently nobody had informed Jean that the role was basically just a glorified stuntman. They were prepared to direct him to just like hop around like a frog, but Jean was obviously confused and upset with that choice. According to Jean, he had just gotten off the boat and was under the impression that he was going to be showcasing his martial arts skills to the world, but was instead reduced to a massive slow-moving alien with dreadlocks. To the surprise of absolutely nobody, Van Damme was furious and dispirited about spending the entire movie cooped up in a clunky and often ridiculous looking suit, and was ultimately fired and replaced with Kevin Peter Hall. The idea that he was just on set like, I can barely move in this thing, oh man, it just makes me so happy. Number 2, Dennis Hopper. Dennis Hopper is one of the groundbreaking actors and directors of the 1960s and 70s New Hollywood, eventually finding his niche in the early 90s, playing villains in films like Speed, Waterworld, and the live-action Mario movie where he plays Bowser. Yes, that exists, and no, it's not good. So it came as no surprise when he was casted to play Christoph, the all-powerful TV producer controlling Truman Burbank's life in the film The Truman Show. The cast was stacked and included Hollywood heavyweight Jim Carrey as the titular Truman. Anyone with a brain cell would have been excited to be a part of this film, still considered to be one of Jim's best dramatic performances. However, 2 days into shooting his scenes for Christoph, which were only expected to take like maybe 10 days, Hopper was unceremoniously let go from the set. Apparently Dennis had a contract in place with producer Scott Rudin that he'd be fired should his work be unsatisfactory, and he must have been pretty bad in the role, as the director, Peter Weir, had been described as an extremely reluctant man to ever remove anyone from a set. Reports later surfaced that Hopper was basically half asleep while playing the character, and while Christoph wasn't necessarily written to be a manic madman, he did require just a little bit of effort to be properly pulled off. Ultimately, Ed Harris stepped in to play the role after production had been desperately trying to replace Dennis to avoid having the film shut down entirely. Thankfully, that never happened, and The Truman Show has gone on to be one of the most depressingly heartfelt Jim Carrey performances ever released on film. Oh, and Ed actually got nominated for an Oscar, so sorry Dennis, looks like they made a good movie without you. And at number 1, Johnny Depp. When Pirates of the Caribbean actor Johnny was announced to star as Gellert Grindelwald in the Fantastic Beasts series, it immediately sparked controversy and shock. In the same year that the first film was set to release, 2016, Depp had just received his first public accusation of the situation surrounding him and Amber Heard. While Depp was only briefly involved in the first film, the second film, Crimes of Grindelwald, features his character in the prominent villain role. After losing his first libel suit against the British tabloid The Sun in 2020, Depp was ultimately asked to resign from the role, with Warner Brothers claiming that the bad press associated with Johnny would bog down the film's release, which was not ideal considering they were trying to make as much money as possible before streaming giant HBO took over the property. When this decision was made, the production on the third film, Secrets of Dumbledore, had already begun, with Johnny even filming his first scene. Because he filmed something at all, the studio was forced to pay him his entire $16 million check for the production. Critically acclaimed performer Mads Mikkelsen was brought in to replace Depp in the third film, with there literally being like zero explanation as to why Grindelwald changed his face. This movie's set in the magic world. You telling me that they couldn't have just dropped in a little nugget of info during a fight or something, like, "You're going to perish. Oh, and by the way, there's a really good plastic surgeon around the corner. You should check him out."
And at number 10, Lily Singh. When it was announced that YouTuber Lily Singh got her own late night show with NBC, the internet was set ablaze because this was a massive step for YouTubers and influencers breaking into mainstream media. But after the show aired, it was clear it was too big of a step for Lily and that she was not a natural when it came to hosting a show. After struggling through the first season, the show was picked up again for a second, but after the second season was proved to be no more interesting than the first, it was cancelled by the network. When the series premiered in 2019, Singh became the first woman in more than 30 years and the first LGBTQ person to ever host a late-night program on a major network. Lily announced the cancellation in a statement where she thanked NBC and her fans and said it's only the beginning for her career in TV. She's apparently made a production deal with UTA as well as a comedy project with Netflix. And at number 9, Bill O'Reilly. Bill O'Reilly was one of the people who put Fox News on the map and helped it to become the top of the ratings chart. But he was fired after multiple allegations of misconduct against women at the studio came to light. At first, the network stood by their star, but then 80 companies decided to boycott putting ads on the network, which forced their hand. At the time, Fox News was going through a massive transformation, losing another one of its biggest stars, Megyn Kelly, after she stood by fellow host Gretchen Carlson for coming out against her at the network. O'Reilly never admitted to any wrongdoings, and following his firing, he told Today, quote, "If you look at the totality, this was a hit job, a political and financial hit job," blaming left-wing organizations for his demise. And at number 8, Wendy Williams. Wendy Williams got fired from another gig before she got the coveted position of having her own show. She used to work for radio station Hot 97, where she had her own radio show, and she would talk about hot topics in Hollywood. But in usual Wendy fashion, she took it too far and paid the ultimate price. Wendy decided to post photos of Diddy on the beach when he was not wearing any clothes, if you catch my drift. And you could see everything in these photos. The station was obviously not happy with this, and she was suspended for the action, along with making a permanent enemy out of Diddy. After some time, the network decided to cut their losses and fire her. But after this, Wendy did not stay down for long, and she ended up landing her own daytime show on network TV. Talk about a comeback. Although due to health concerns, Wendy is no longer hosting the show, and it will be overtaken by the Sherry Shepherd Show. And at number 7, Matt Lauer. In 2017, NBC was at the center of a huge scandal when they suspended broadcaster Matt Lauer only minutes before he was set to go live on air. Instead of the usual Lauer and Savannah Guthrie starring the broadcast, it was instead Guthrie and Hoda Khattab. The women started the broadcast with transparency, sharing an internal memo that had been sent out just minutes before, announcing the suspension of Lauer. In this memo, it claims that multiple allegations had been made that Lauer engaged in inappropriate conduct with other NBC employees. These incidents started at the 2014 Sochi Olympics and apparently continued when the women returned back from the trip. In the statement, NBC chairman admitted that there was reason to believe these were not isolated incidents. Lauer issued his own statement days later, admitting to the acts. He was then fired by the network and has not worked since. And at number 6, Sharon Osbourne. Sharon Osbourne was fired from her hosting gig on The Talk after she got into a heated debate with fellow host Cheryl Underwood while speaking about her good friend Piers Morgan. Morgan got tons of backlash after making some nasty comments about Meghan Markle and her interview with Oprah. Then the women of The Talk discussed the incident, and Osbourne took her friend's side. After this, it was announced that Osbourne was let go from the show. CBS said in a statement that her behavior, quote, "did not align with our values." When speaking about her firing with Bill Maher, she said, quote, "I'm angry, I'm hurt, I've been called so many things in my life, but a racist is not one I will take." Osbourne continued, quote, "She's entitled to her opinion, Piers is entitled to his, and that's what it's all about. Disagreeing with someone does not make you a racist in my book." A lot of Sharon's fans disagreed with her firing, and the ratings of the show plummeted after she left.
Halfway through at number 5, Jake T. Austin. Former Wizards of Waverly Place actor Jake T. Austin saw a lot of success when working on the Disney Channel. After finding fame alongside Selena Gomez and David Henry, Jake went on to pursue another role on the ABC Family show The Fosters. ABC Family, a subsidiary of the Disney Empire, basically has the same sort of standards for their actors. They all have to keep their noses clean and stay family friendly, and as long as they follow the rules, they can have a career. They honestly sound a little culty, but I digress. Jake jumped into the new hit series playing the role of Jesus and saw a lot of success. But then just out of freaking nowhere, Jake goes AWOL and gets into some trouble. In 2013, Jake was arrested and charged with a DUI. Jake, who was 18 at the time, was able to handle things pretty discreetly and not much news broke of it. Fast forward to 2014, and Jake lands himself back into some more trouble, this time being involved in a pretty serious crash. Now get this, Jake had allegedly driven into 3 parked cars, then threw a bottle of Ciroc out of the window and Ubered away from the crash. Talk about chaotic. First of all, how do you hit 3 parked cars at once? Like, I don't understand how that would work. Secondly, he just threw a bottle of premium grade vodka out the window. Probably to prevent himself from getting another DUI, but still, that ish is pretty pricey nonetheless. And number 3, who just Ubers away from a crash like that? You just got yourself a witness, my guy. You're not very good at committing crimes. Now obviously this kind of behavior upset the head honchos at Disney, and his Foster's character was recast to Hollywood's newest heartthrob, Noah Centineo. Jake, you done effed up on that one. In at number 4, Mitchell Musso. Oh Oliver, how you done goofed. Former Disney Channel actor Mitchell Musso, best known for his role as Oliver Oaken in Hannah Montana, saw his career crash and burn in 2011. Just shortly after the end of Hannah Montana, Mitchell, who was just 20 years old at the time, was charged with a DUI when he was pulled over by an officer after failing to comply with police-directed traffic. Musso was in deep trouble with this one, because not only was his blood alcohol level way above the legal limit, he was also not supposed to be drinking alcohol in the first place, since in the US the legal drinking age is 21, and he had not quite reached that age at the time of the incident. Now, in true Mickey Mouse fashion, Mitchell was shunned from Disney because of this. He was kicked off his upcoming Disney project Pair of Kings, and they even refused to acknowledge his part in it. He was well and truly shunned from the company. He had also been part of the cast of Phineas and Ferb, and was obviously banished from that project as well, but at least they gave him some credit. Following his DUI charge, his legal battle began, but luckily for Musso, he wasn't given jail time. Instead, he was served with 36 months probation, forced to take an alcohol education class, and he had to pay a fine. Since then, his career has never been the same, and he was never able to pick up the same success that he once had on the Disney Channel, but I guess that's just the universe's way of punishing him. Coming down to the wire, let's talk about PewDiePie. Or should I say, PewDiePie. I don't know if he still does that, but I'm saying it anyway. The YouTube gamer, who was scheduled to have a collaboration with Maker Studios, a Disney-owned company, was quickly dropped after being faced with backlash following a slew of anti-Semitic jokes. The backlash coming at Pewds came from a series of since-deleted videos where he featured a mix of anti-Semitic jokes and Nazi imagery. Now, Pewds, I know you've built your fame off being loud and critical and making jokes and whatnot, but don't you think that joking about some serious discrimination is probably not the best thing for your career? The best, or probably the worst example of this poor decision comes from a video he posted where we see two men holding up a sign that says "Death to all Jews" and another that features someone dressed as Jesus saying Hitler did nothing wrong. Like, dude, seriously? How did you think you could post this and get away with it? You should have seen the hate coming from light years away. Clearly this kind of thing really upset the people at Maker Studios, and they decided to cut ties with the YouTuber shortly after these videos were published. Of all the times you could have been offensive, and of all the times you could have been publicly scrutinized, you chose the moment after you signed with one of the biggest companies in the world to go and mess things up for yourself. PewDiePie went ahead and issued an apology saying that he does not support that kind of behavior and that the message was misconstrued, but no one was really buying that. The video was made to show how Pewds paid people on the website Fiverr to make banners and film themselves, but that still doesn't take away from the fact that even though he could have made the people he hired to do anything, he chose to make them include anti-Semitic messages. Bad move on your part, Pewds. In at number 2, Jake Paul. We all know YouTuber Jake Paul for his YouTube antics, but back in 2017, it was those very antics that got him fired from his role on the Disney Channel show Bizaardvark. With all the shenanigans Jake and his Team 10 housemates got into, Jake's neighbors were not thrilled with having them there. There had reportedly been so many house calls and complaints against Jake and the Team 10 house that it started to get media attention. And you know Disney, if it's not good news for them, it's bad news for you. The YouTuber's bad press was not good for Disney's image, so some tough decisions had to be made. The execs at Disney came to the decision to let Jake go, and supposedly the decision was mutual with Jake's team. I kinda don't buy that. I can't really believe that Jake made the decision to leave Disney, since being on the show was his dream and the whole reason he moved to California in the first place. I know that he was getting a lot of success on his own from YouTube, but being fired from Disney probably wasn't part of Jake's plan. He said that he and his team had made the decision to leave, but I think what really happened is that he just didn't want to seem upset about it and let it go. I mean, he took the L and moved on. Things for Jake have been pretty okay since then, although he's already a divorcee, but I guess that's just how Jake rolls. And in the number 1 spot, we have Bella Thorne. Miss Bella Thorne, known best for her time on Disney's Shake It Up, really shook things up for Disney after a few years under the mouse's iron fist. Ever since moving on from the entertainment empire, Bella has been very vocal about her time working on Disney and why she was let go. As it goes for a lot of Disney stars, their contracts limit their freedom as individuals. They're asked to stay pretty PG and kid-friendly as they work there, but for some stars who grow up on the platform, this rule tends to be pretty restricting. As Bella grew up on TV, she wanted to express herself more and just really be herself, but obviously Disney doesn't like that. Really, the thing that started to anger Disney and push them to let Bella go were her clothing choices. Whenever Bella would dress up in a crop top or be seen out in a bikini, some execs were not happy because it wasn't brand friendly enough. All Bella wanted to do was wear what she felt made her happy, but apparently this was against the contract. If this sort of thing happened to me, I'd probably react in the same way Bella did and just keep on doing it. No one really has much right to tell you what you can and cannot wear, and it's not really fair to have those sort of rules in place. So Bella kept on pushing until they were fed up with her and they let her go. Now Bella is free to do whatever she wants, like direct adult films and start an OnlyFans. She's her own boss now and she's killing the game.